Face front, true believers, and welcome to the culmination of the Samaritan path Netflix started us down, where we recap the journeys of the Devil of Hell's Kitchen, the PI who stood up to the Purple Man, the righteous ex-con turned Power Man, and the kid with the glowing fist, in a show where we uncover the stories the Avengers might not disclose, but we will, as we analyze the Marvel microcosm and finally start Divulging Defenders. Oh, yeah. All right, Dragon, no time to lose. We are indeed Divulging Defenders. We are finally, a little bit behind the schedule, Dragon, because, of course, it's kind of like the new, the big new Netflix thing is definitely not Defenders at this point. It's like we already talked about the big new Netflix thing at the current moment, and the new Marvel thing is going to come up. Folks, let's just say this much. I think we kind of made a scheduling blunder when we, kind of left Luke Cage up to the last minute and how many episodes did we do in like a week and a half, Dragon? Like 7?
Let's see, we ended at 7, then we had the remaining, I guess, wouldn't it be, it'd be 6. We had 6 remaining, I guess.
Okay, yeah, so we crammed in 6 Luke Cage podcasts into like a week and a half's worth of time to get that in before the Defenders launched, and that was just craziness.
And we had a big episode of Iron Fist.
That's right. We also had like a major, just a 1-episode deal, because let's face it, to do 13 podcasts about Iron Fist. I'm sorry.
But it was an extravaganza, though, filled with ice cream death.
Indeed. Oh boy. But we are back yet again, and just importantly, folks, we're not going to keep to the rigid schedule of like releasing this the night before the Punisher comes out, because let's face it, there's just too much else on our plate, and we don't want to kind of like cram the whole channel with Defender stuff all the time. So we're just going to take this at our own pace, more or less, Dragon.
Just thematically, it's like the Punisher doesn't really, he's outside of kind of our little team here. He was introduced in Daredevil, but he's kind of his own thing, so that's another kind of reason we're kind of not tying it super into the deal. Like, we're not counting down to the Punisher necessarily.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I very much am counting down to the Punisher personally,
Well, we're eager for the show, but I mean, there's no, it's like building a team versus, the next Punisher adventure, which are both equally great things, but kind of like the 4 components coming together. That's a lot of that's time crunchy build. Like, oh my god, it's here.
Sure. So I just want to get off that off the table. Like, when people see the Marvel Netflix stuff in their feed, they're going to be like, oh god, these guys are like just going to go into it. And don't worry, folks, the whole channel's not going to be taken over by this. We're going to go at it at our own pace. So, Dragon, with that in mind, we're talking about Season 1, Episode 1 of The Defenders. I'm assuming it's Season 1. Well, I mean, obviously it's Season 1. I'm assuming it's the first of many seasons. That came out wrong. Yes. Dragon, I love the title of this episode and how it plays into the episode. Of course, we've got the H word. So let's start things off with the plot.
All right, very simply, folks. Here's the plot in bullet points. So we check in where the Defenders' individual seasons, left off. So just to break that down real broadly. So Iron Fist and Colleen are going after the Hand. Jessica Jones is in heroic denial. Luke Cage returns to Harlem, and Matt Murdock faces difficulty trying to stay retired. We learned that the dying Hand leader, Alexandra Reed, is moving the Hand's timetable up for the big plan, which of course everyone's a little worried about, because we're moving the big plan up to today. And Luke Cage, meanwhile, he's trying to mentor young Cole Miller. Let me see how that goes. Jessica Jones is looking into the Hand's C4 supplier, John Raymond. A lot of intrigue there as well. And we end in a big earth-shattering earthquake that hits New York, from Harlem to Hell's Kitchen, all over the place. And, of course, big reveal, Elektra's alive!
Hello, Matthew. I just rolled around in the blood. Splish, splash.
Oh, we're gonna get to that. It's good.
Oh yes, we will. Maybe not today, folks, but soon.
I'll be waiting.
Oh God. Okay. So, folks, we're gonna take this character by character. So let's start by let's do some interpreting Iron Fist.
Yes.
All right, so Iron Fist, obviously the Stranger Things episode 7 of Marvel Netflix characters.
Come on.
I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. But I gotta say, Dragon, rewatching this episode, the Danny Rand stuff, I mean, it doesn't really hold a candle to the rest of the storylines, but it's decidedly not terrible. Like, I was pleasantly surprised at how not terrible it was. I mean, it's not great, but it really wasn't anything that had me, like, reaching for the fast forward button or anything.
Right. So it's where we kind of start Danny and Colleen in this episode. Again, it's kind of neat that that was one of the main gripes with Iron Fist as a season was that it definitely felt it had kind of the Iron Man 2 problem where basically we're fast forwarding to the big team up. You know, Revenge, of course, with Iron Man 2, you had like, okay, we're laying a lot of pipe for Avengers because we got super excited by the Nick Fury thing at the end of Iron Man 1, and in Iron Fist case, you know what, we were dying to get to Defenders and we're so close. Let's just okay, I'll drop a lot of Defenders references, and of course at the end, basically we're gonna kick off. We're gonna end in a way that kind of correlates directly into the opening of Defenders. In this case, Kunlun's gone, and Danny and Colleen, you know, they're on a, you know, they're going around the globe, kind of figuring out what the hand's going for. Like, why was the hand targeting Kunlun? What's going on here?
Mm-hmm.
That's where we check in with them here. They're kind of going around. They are taking down the hand where they come across them, but also they are looking for the chased. They're looking for the chase. They don't know what the chase is, but they've kind of heard murmurs of it. And of course, we the audience, and this is kind of the benefit of what the Defenders is. You know, the culmination of all these shows is kind of finally kind of, you know, overlaying each other, connecting. And by the way, it's kind of well, no, I'll save that for when we get to another segment. So I was jumping the gun there for a moment. Anyway, the chase, of course, we know as the as Styx guys. Styx forced to fight the hand, and that's kind of what Danny's trying to kind of find. And I thought what was interesting about that is that he is seeking out the chase in a way. Danny seems to be, he's trying to become a real Iron Fist again. That's what it seems to be, because he kind of lost, in Danny's mind, he was left, he's haunted by the guilt that, you know, he left Kunlun unprotected. He kind of violated the main purpose of the Iron Fist. And what I loved so much, one element I really did like about that cliffhanger ending of Iron Fist was that, you know, we just saw like kind of the bloody remains of a fight, and it looked like the Kunlun was winning, but the fact is Danny will just be haunted by the fact he doesn't know what the outcome is, and then the gate closed. So again, Kunlun's just kind of off the table, so he'll be left not knowing for essentially 15 years. But again, we're gonna see where we go with that.
Yeah, I thought all the stuff on the plane was good. I'll admit probably the weak point for me in the episode with Danny was the opening scene. I don't know, maybe it's just because like I thought it was kind of like a weak sauce opening compared to some of the other stuff we could have opened on.
Yes, but I wouldn't put that on Danny Rand. I would put that on it was a. I agree that it was a weak sauce opening. I don't think it's on Iron Fist the character, like just starting.
No, I'll agree with you. It's not on Iron Fist the character. It's on the poorly shot fight scenes because Dragon, I'm sorry. I just, for me personally, I always have a problem with action and poorly lit environments. And this is just like a really good example of that.
Well, my problem with it, Tiki, I kind of get what you're saying. I don't think you can, I think you can have an action scene where it's like, you know, we're not seeing everyone. The problem is, it's kind of clear who it is in the shadow and the silhouette. That's kind of the issue there. I think we could have obscured them more and kind of made it like someone in the shadows taking someone out. But yeah, basically you can stage fights in the darkness, but you can't do like an in-depth fight like they did in the darkness because you're going to see too much.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. That's where it gets kind of poorly shot there. I mean, again, it's like it's a good fight scenes, but they're trying to kind of have their cake and eat it too, which it just comes across like, yeah, we could have. Maybe we shouldn't have opened with this scene where everyone's kind of waiting for the street level heroes, and yet we're not on the streets quite yet.
That's what I'm saying. That's
why I think it's a weak sauce opening as well with Tiki. That's kind of my half of that.
Ironically enough, Dragon, I'm sorry, I don't mean to keep making comparisons, but it's pretty similar to the the way that the opening of season 2 of Stranger Things is kind of like a little off kilter. Like, wait, we're not back in the small town. What is this?
And you do kind of build and similar to that, you do kind of build some half intrigue. Where again, you're kind of like, why are we starting here? But at the same time, it's like, yeah, why are we starting here? It's kind of that.
You're right, exactly.
It's like there's that intrigue of like, man, it's like, what movie are we watching? Like, what are we watching here? It's like, I want to know where's this going to pay off, and of course, it's kind of a mixed bag. But the sequence I really want to that I love how we showed Danny being haunted there, because that nightmare sequence, it goes a little
the nightmare sequence is, like, I would say that's probably one of the best solo Iron Fist scenes we get in this whole season. I mean, of course, Danny Rand is kind of like the Hulk. Like, he does shine when he's around other characters. I think other characters kind of bring out the best in him throughout this season. But in terms of the solo stuff he gets, this dream was really, at least visually, it was really engaging.
It sounds a little something like this, Murdoch vision. Oh, fun fact! Just while we're kind of talking about Danny Rand, I was actually able to meet some of our defenders in this scene. I was actually able to meet at the Comic-Con this year. I was able to meet Tiki knows this. I was able to meet Finn Jones.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I was in the same proximity as Jessica Henwick. So I mean, there's a bit of that too. But I got to meet Finn Jones.
But yeah, I mean, you make a lot of good points about the guilt that Danny's feeling throughout the episode and throughout the season. It's a good kind of starting point for his character arc.
Yeah, and again, this is the stuff I'm dying to see. This is the intriguing stuff I'm waiting to see in Iron Fist season 2. Again, just like those lingering questions. Again, it's such kind of an interesting idea. But beyond that, let's see anything main hit here.
What do you think about the whole? New York is whatever you want it to be.
Yeah, I'll give it a pass comparatively. It's not.
Yeah, that's kind of my attitude towards it. Like, it's a little cheesy, but honestly, Dragon, I give it a pass just because it feels like classic Stan Lee Marvel. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But I mean, yes. Again, speaking again once more to the nightmare. Again, I like that it's kind of driving him mad, and also we have that great visual symbol where Danny's at this season that we kind of start at the beginning of the season, where he has a big scar across the Iron Fist symbol, which is kind of like an anti-Iron Fist thing. It was a great shot, where he's kind of wiping away kind of the fog on the mirror, and he kind of reveals that, and just that's Danny's problem, like, on his body, and that's a cool visual reminder of what his arc is like. Again, he was trying to have both by the end of the season of, kind of like he's trying to get back to being an Iron Fist, where it was like kind of a battle between the two of them, and he's trying to kind of strike a balance. In this case, he's out of balance in what he is yet again.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Of course, I do like kind of the answers lying in Danny's other home, New York. So, I mean, I like that we do at least kind of put New York back into perspective at the very end of that. I mean, it's a good collab, and in that regard, that we set up New York of like, okay, now we got to go to New York. I mean, that part of it's like, yeah, it's cool, but again, the way the other stuff shot kind of shoots in the foot a little bit.
Yep.
All
right. So let's go to the defender that everyone actually wants to talk about.
May I? I'm sorry. But tell them I got a little something going.
Oh no! By all means, by all means.
First, folks, we're going to start unlocking Luke Cage. Of course, another name Luke Cage goes by.
Power Man.
Yeah.
I'm Luke Cage. Whenever I hear that, I just picture Diamondback walking around, like running around Comic-Con in like the classic like orange shirts.
Jeez. You're still stuck on the Comic-Con.
Yes, I'm still stuck on the Comic-Con thing.
Oh, where's our
I'm Luke Cage.
All right. Let's talk about Harlem's hero here. Let's hope we're taking our huge.
So this episode is basically like the closest we ever get to an after-school special with Luke Cage in the best kind of way.
Yes.
It's like an after school special about like, hey guys, people who got out of prison aren't such bad people. They're just people trying to reform their lives.
You know, I like the
Also,
little.
of course, like, hey, if you're in crime, there's another path.
Yeah. So yes, it's just kind of checking with Luke here. Of course, he's released from Seagate thanks to Bobby Fish and of course a very bright lawyer by the name of Foggy Nelson. We'll touch on just a moment here, just to focus on Luke for a moment here. Of course, I love that Luke's coming out of it. I like that Luke being a non-violent person, being a respectful guy, and being the wizened ex-con that he is. He comes out of it. And I love that the warden somewhat respects him. I like that they had that little details. It's like a blink and you miss it moment, but it goes a little. Here's how it sounds, folks.
Looks like all your paper person worked. Look up the superstar. Get him out of my sight.
It's really nice that he kind of like get him out of my sight. Basically, he's like congratulating him, but also with Luke there, of course, one of the great moments in the trailer. I love that Defenders trailer so much, and we'll see some reflections of that within this. but again, I just love the fact that he's already being released, and it's the fact that now he was allowing himself to be. He could have escaped at any time, but he just is the guy's fumbling with the keys, the handcuffs. Okay, I'm done. I've waited long enough. He just breaks the handcuffs. I love. We didn't see this in the trailer. He kind of crunches the handcuffs around his wrists because we never see that. Rarely do we see that addressed. Usually, okay, the handcuffs break, and then eventually at some point it was. Of course, Luke Cage, a very easy remedy, and he gives it back and believe these are yours. Like, oh man, that's awesome. And then of course, we meet the ever lovable. Yes.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Wilson Fisk up there. Yeah, I want to get him in there a little bit because he was not in the season.
Yeah, Foggy's a great kind of I call Foggy kind of a spice in this season of the Defenders. You know what I mean? It's like we don't really need him in like a main character or like a main supporting role or anything like that, but he's a good spice to add to the add to the chessboard that is this season.
I love that he finally has short hair, by the way. Because I'm just saying, traditionally Foggy's has short hair. I never was expecting it, but I was just kind of wondering if he was ever going to get it. And I guess it makes all sense in the world. Working with Jerry Hogarth, she would institute kind of a dress code.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Luke now has a clean as a clean slate, and again, we have a wonderful scene between one of my. This is really a runner-up for one of my favorite scenes, by the way. Just again, here's some great cross-pollination, of course. Again, with the whole, we knew going into this that Foggy might have some ties to Jessica Jones, but I was completely surprised. But seeing Foggy at the jail instead of Matt Murdock.
Yeah, because of course, we had it all but set up. Like Claire's like, oh, I know a really great lawyer.
But it makes sense. She also knows another lawyer. She doesn't.
That's true.
Got to play with some expectation there. Anyway, it's a great scene between the great Mike Coulter and of course, the great Foggy Nelson.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Lucas, Mr. Cage. Which do you prefer? I forget. Cage. Good. Franklin Nelson. I ran point on your case. We spoke on the phone. A lot. You spoke a lot. As long as it worked. I appreciate it. I appreciate your friend Bobby Fish. We all did some impressive work. Plus, you made it through a prison stint without throwing a single punch. I'm sure that was hard for a person
Oh, Tiki, these are the kind of scenes I live for Luke Cage. You know, he's just so darn charismatic here. Where again, I love that he's giving Foggy a bit. He's giving him a bit of the business here, but he's showing him nothing but respect. He says, "Thank you, Mr. Nelson." And he's kind of subtly telling Foggy to grow up, and I really love that in the scene here because again, that's kind of what Foggy's been doing this season, where he's just kind of he's growing up from the Foggy we kind of know and love, and it's not a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's really it's a really nice little moment between those two guys. You know, you never imagine to see those guys kind of rubbing elbows. All right. So okay, so yeah, Lucas got a clean slate, and of course, after a after a coffee break, which goes a little something like this.
Oh man.
Well, we know what happens after that, but the point is,
yeah,
after
like, please don't, you don't have to get too explicit with what we have.
Of course, I mean, hey, it's Luke Tiki, it's Luke Cage. We gotta show him nothing but respect, and we love Luke Cage.
Of course,
he deserves his private coffee breaks. Anyway, so
after like I did not expect them to like kind of like push the boundaries of the sex scenes that they had in Jessica Jones, but they did it.
It was like the fastest one. I gotta tell you, episode 1 we're firing right into it. So yeah, so Luke now with a clean slate. He's kind of mulling these. He's definitely mulling this over, and Claire is kind of voicing, what kind of life you're gonna have now. I mean, now it's like the sky's the limit, but you're also you want to be. I love that Luke. He knows he wants to be a hero, but at the same time, he's not quite sure how to kind of pursue that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and basically what I really love in his arc in this episode is that, again, befitting the title, and it's one of my favorite elements of the episode, is that, we don't, no one is a hero in this first episode. Luke, again, he's still not describing himself as a hero because it's for a specific reason. He's considering being a hero, but then he runs into Misty. Misty, of course, kind of telling about Candace Miller. It goes something like this.
Remember Candace is close to testifying against Mariah. Murder still unsolved. That was his sister.
That was overboard.
Should have heard the way that mother cried.
How much can you let me in on this? I'll find who's behind it.
You could do that. Or you could help guide this young man in a different direction. Like Pop used to.
And that's what I'm really loving about Luke's stuff here, where he's not becoming a hero because he's opting to be Pops. Again, that's the arc we started Luke on.
As I said, he's basically kind of like he's essentially becoming like the the cheesy like 1970s like Fat Albert after school special version of Luke Cage for at least one episode.
Yeah, and again, it's like it's opting to be the new Pops over a hero, and that's kind of a great kind of rationale for that. Okay, why would Luke Cage not be a hero instantly? And because after the whole arc of that season, like he's thinking himself a hero, and again, it makes all the sense in the world that he's stepping in, he's kind of honoring Pop's legacy in that regard. And of course, as we had at the end of that Foggy scene, he says, not backwards, Mr. Nelson, forward always. Basically he's quoting Pops again. He's now lived the Pops experience, and he's coming out without having to be in hiding, just like Pops. And now he doesn't have to be on the run like he was in the first season. It's great.
Yeah, and I just think the writers are, they've just reached such a level of perfection with the way that we have Luke emulating Pops. You know what I mean? Like all the forward always lines that we get sprinkled throughout the season. It's just like that forward thing. It's like the writers are just, they're really latching onto the forward thing in a good way and just making the most of it.
Exactly. No more, hiding, no more keeping his head down. No more Carl Lucas. It's it's Luke Cage now.
Mm.
Well, it's Luke Cage with not having to fear Carl Lucas anymore. Again, that's why kind of Foggy presented him with, again, subtly in dialogue. We're getting all this out there. The whole, what do you prefer, Mr. Lucas, Mr. Cage? Of course, he's opting for Cage, but again, he's not afraid of Lucas anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's like he's using, again, exactly like Pops, he is using his reputation instead of his fist, where, of course, Pops famously used his fist because the Pops animated. And, kind of now his his reputation of like being, you go to the barber shop and then when to kind of get you off the streets. In this case, Luke Cage, he's essentially he's become the barbershop. He's kind of the moving representation
right.
of the barbershop.
Oh God.
Okay, let's see. Of course, Candace just being the Miller family. We should probably go over briefly. The Miller family represents sort of the destruction,
like the idea of bad things happening to good people in Hell's Kitchen
in Harlem.
Oh God, I'm so sorry. That's dumb. That's embarrassing.
In Harlem, and of course, the Miller family is probably, especially with Candace, of course, the most ever-present victim of Mariah Dillard and Shades. Of course, the two of them just kind of working on the kind of the corruption of the system there, where basically Shades can get away with killing her on Mariah's orders and get away
just
with
like Candace's whole storyline from Luke Cage season 1 was like the probably the most tragic element of that whole season, I thought.
Because Candace was the hope in Hell's Kitchen that people, they'll be desperate, where again they'll be kind of coerced into doing something criminal, but at the same time, they're meanwhile, and Candace made the right call in the end, but she suffered for it. She paid the price, and what we do so fantastically here is that we get to see the consequence that there are families. That Candace has a family, and the fact that I like that it didn't play as like, okay, we need to reemphasize some Luke Cage if we're going to give her like a brother and a sister. But no, I love that what we're building to is that there was a we start in this episode. We're going to pay it off in another episode, which I'm really looking forward to. But we we have a moment where Misty is pointing out again the mother cried hardest.
Yeah, that's really good foreshadowing. Yeah.
The fact that again it's the destruction.
That definitely, like, for me, that foreshadows the most haunting moment in the whole season.
Oh yeah,
which we'll get to, of course.
Of course, but you see what I'm saying. I mean, I love that we're showing the consequence, not losing your life. That's something to be expected in a crime-ridden neighborhood, but it's more so the what's left in its wake. So I mean, we're hitting all the right points. Luke Cage he's so on point.
Sure.
In this episode. So again, it's. So Luke Cage, we're very much on point. Okay. All right. So I guess let's go.
So next up, let's check in with that PI with the PI with an attitude problem. Let's go into investigating Jessica Jones. Jessica.
May the professionals give it a shot.
Jessica Jones.
Yes.
Well played. God. Oh man. So Jessica Jones is like the MVP of Defenders, I think, Jake. I think, Dragon. I'm sorry. Oh, I've been talking to both of you for too long.
How many you had today, Tiki?
Well, to be fair, I've been doing like the Star versus Forces of Evil recaps with Jacob like every day this week. So, anyways. But Jessica Jones is the MVP. I mean, for as good as everyone else is, I think Jessica Jones, and it's odd because it's like she really is kind of like the like she has a story arc, but she's probably got like the least like the smallest arc out of the main four, and yet I think maybe because of that, she's just like she has all the good moments, she has all the good lines. You know what I mean? I
found Tia. I'm so glad you consider her the MVP of the episode, because she really is. And what occurred to me is that on the rewatch, she has a lot more. She has a few more layers to her arc that I didn't see the first time around. I thought it just really fed into kind of again. Of course, she kind of coins the episode's title, which is also kind of neat. But aside from that, I mean, she's kind of has the. Let's go through it so I can kind of explain it better. So basically,
we just slide in like a glove into her storyline. It's just such a natural introduction to her, where she's just like, the bartender's trying to get her out of the bar, and she's like, "Oh, come on, it's not even that late. It's morning."
Yeah, now it's
like, oh God, Dragon. It's just like I can't even tell you, like. Like watching this for the first time, especially, of course, because, all the anticipation of Defenders and you're staying up till midnight for it to drop and everything. And, like watching it for the first time, my heart just was set aflutter at all this Jessica Jones stuff, like right at the top of the episode. It's just, like I said, it's very familiar and comforting.
Oh, yeah. Jessica Jones, if we learn nothing from Iron Fist, it's that Jessica Jones kind of gets, again, she doesn't have exactly kind of the, kind of the pizzazz that the others have in terms of, I mean, I'm saying, of course, she's a great character. I'm just saying she doesn't necessarily have the name recognition of the other characters. That's why in Iron Fist she doesn't get a name reference. It's like a real subtle reference. Everyone else gets referenced by name left and right. Oh yeah, there's Daredevil, the Devil of Hell's Kitchen. There's the Bulletproof Man.
Yeah, but I mean, having said that, like, she is kind of she has developed like an attention and a reputation to herself with what happened with the Purple Man that
exactly
is kind of a good sort of development on her character. And like you said, she coins the phrase of the episode, like, don't say the H word, which, Dragon, I love that moment. I love the whole talk with Trish. Like I said, it's just like they're so on point. It's like we haven't missed a beat since season 1 of Jessica Jones with the Trish and Jessica dynamic.
Here's a piece of that.
Okay, go ahead.
Like that. You're not comfortable with what you become. Jessica, you are now a full-on super H word. Yes, I've got enough of a headache as it is. I'm just saying you might want to consider going home, getting some sleep, rejoining society. I'm talking to you. And I appreciate that. Is there whiskey in this? Oh yeah, that's fine.
Again, one of the best running gags with Jessica Jones in this season that she's unabashedly a drunkard, and it's hilarious.
Yes.
But
it is a great gag, but at the same time, they do kind of show how it's affecting her life. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Now, speaking of that, I just want to get on point with some of Jessica Jones. Sure. I love that in the beginning here. Of course, we end Jessica Jones on a hopeful note, and it's interesting that we kind of start on not so much of a hopeful note. Basically, it seemed you and I assume a lot of people, we kind of inferred kind of the path of Jessica Jones, where okay, she was going to start helping people because people were calling for help, and after the reputation she had developed for ending the Purple Man. So where we check in with her here, basically the heroic praise left and right and all the calls for help post the Purple Man has scared Jessica back in the seclusion, and she hasn't answered the phone, she hasn't taken on any new clients. And here's what occurred to me on a rewatch, Tika, I was really intrigued by with Jessica Jones. That I want to say, my theory is that I think she's kind of, if not a reason why she might be drinking more, at the very least mainly the reason she's definitely been avoiding answering the call, quite literally, is that I think it's her PTSD of the minute she tries to be a hero again. Because when she tried to be a hero, everything went south for her. And of course, when she saved Malcolm, that's when she met Kilgrave. So I think deep down, Tiki, her PTSD is kicking in.
Oh, I absolutely think it's the PTSD. I'm 1,000% in agreement with you there.
Yeah, and basically that's why she's like in such she's in such strong denial of like answering that call, like being a hero. That's why she hasn't picked up the phone. That's why she hasn't taken on this call. She's afraid that there's another Purple Man like event that's going to come along the minute she tries again. And again, I like that. I like that we don't say that. I like that it's there. And again, it's kind of it's a way of looking at the excess drinking this season, as that's kind of where Iron Fist has his scar. She has, of course, constantly all the different bottles and bottles and drinks and hidden whiskeys and coffee. She's all sorts of representations of that.
Like, this is sort of the way I wish that they'd handle Tony Stark's alcoholism.
I'll give you that. Yeah, I think they. To be fair, though, I mean, you're right. I think it has more significance here, but with in Iron Man 2, especially, he's just always drinking, and then we have it there. But here we have.
I'm just saying, like with Iron Man 2, it's more of a joke without the substance, whereas here it is played for comedy, but at the same time, like you said, it's it's very much an illustration of what she's going through in her arc. So,
yeah. And of course, it's great to see Trish and Malcolm, trying to get her to embrace that. Of course, Malcolm in the kind of the secretarial reception role, and Trish just as kind of the friend. You're absolutely right, Jay. It's like a glove with these. And what's so funny on the rewatch? It kind of occurred to me when they're having their conversation down the street, which that starts by Jessica's kind of helping her friend out. They're just kind of a casual walk. But I love it feels so Linus and Charlie Brown, because she has a line that sounds identical to Charlie Brown Christmas.
Oh God!
Where they're walking down the street, and folks probably heard it. It's where only you could take a personal victory, make it Jessica Jones, only you of all
You're
people
right.
can.
You're right.
It sounds so much like of all the Charlie Browns in the world, you're the Charlie Browniest. That's exactly what it sounded like to me. It's like only you, Jessica Jones, could turn a personal victory like that into a bout of depression. Yeah, that was great. And
but yeah, I think the reason why Jessica's the MVP of the episode for me is that all her supporting cast is so on point. Like both Trish and Malcolm are just like, they're absolutely just completely, it makes all the sense in the world the way both those characters evolved since season 1, I thought.
And T, I'm just so glad. I just want to say here, I'm so glad Jessica Jones is getting more popular. As a character who definitely deserves that popularity.
Oh yeah.
Of course, lastly, I got one brief thing hit with the main thing Jessica goes to this episode. Of course, the PI who does not want to take a case. She eventually is she's kind of wrapped up in a case with the Raymonds. The Raymond family comes by looking for the husband, who John Raymond, of course, is going to factor into the Hands plan. We're going to definitely find out. And she just writes it off as okay. It's another if she doesn't believe that the spouse is cheating. He's been gone for like a day, and of course, no. Basically, she kind of airs this to Malcolm, but the minute the mother and daughter left, of course, she gets a call with a distorted voice. Which again, I think that voice scrambler voice is just kind of the eeriness of like the minute they leave, then Jessica Jones gets the call. I think again, this kind of her Kilgrave sense is tingling in a way.
Mm-hmm.
In that, it's like an ominous one. I love that it's kind of a voice and a kind of a command, like someone telling her to do something. Which, of course, I would imagine on some level rubs it the wrong way. Now,
for sure.
And by the way, I want to make this clear with all the pertinent references. I want to make it clear, and we got to still see how Jessica Jones season 2 pans out. But Purple Man's obviously an experience that's always going to haunt her, but she has gotten over it to an extent. So I don't want to say she's back to square one. I want to say she has gotten over it to an extent, but it's always going to be one of those things that is going to still define her, which is true of the Jessica Jones character. So when we say that, I just want to make it like, oh, it's all Purple Man. It's all like, she can go beyond that.
Well, I mean, to be fair, like Purple Man, he does define the character.
Yes.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't think you're off point with that at all. So.
I just want to say, I want to show that there was some growth. She defeated the boogeyman, but the scars are still there. That's kind of the
right.
downside. So I just want to make it clear, and also I think she sees a reflection of herself in Lexi Raymond with how she was as a girl, which kind of is because of what we saw of young Jessica Jones in those horrific flashbacks from episode 8 of Jessica Jones.
Oh God,
that was such a good episode. Anyway.
Okay, so Dragon, do you have a cue for the next segment?
Do I? Yes, I do.
All right, you want to take it away?
Give him the title.
All right, folks. Well, it's time to talk about the devil of Hell's Kitchen himself. We've built him up. Now let's talk about the main event. It's Discerning Daredevil.
What's down, everybody? I'm Blind Matt Murdock.
Yes, folks. You see, he is. He's not in the suit. Usually, you'd imagine, okay, we're going to. I know we kind of knew this going into. I'm just saying, if no one had seen the trailers or anything, you'd go into this season imagining we kind of started how we usually started Daredevil season. Okay, he's in the suit. He's fighting crime. Yeah, Daredevil. You'd imagine that. But no, he's Matt Murdock, and he's
basically getting the Spider-Man No More arc.
Yes, it's kind of funny. We kind of did a little bit of that in Daredevil season 2. Yet again, it's kind of welcome though, because it's so good. It's always a good story. That's the thing.
Yeah. No, you're right. It's a tried and true go-to.
I was kicking myself. I was in a position where I could have bought that comic recently.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but I'm not kicking myself.
Like the suit and the trash can cover.
Yeah, and of course you got to remember that's also the first appearance of the Kingpin.
Oh, really? Oh, God. Why didn't you spring for that, man?
I'll tell you, I could see the qualities of issues. So, I mean, I could get it easy. I could get a little easily, but it'd be like a beat up cover. That's the thing.
All right.
Anyway, point is, but anyway, oh my God, next time I see it, I probably will spring on it though. Anyway, because you got to find it for a good price. Because anyway, getting back to Daredevil here. So, yes, he is Matt Murdock for a very specific reason. He is retired. He's retired the Daredevil persona after the death of Elektra. He's very haunted by what happened to Elektra, and he is he's basically taking
like in the retired Bruce Wayne phase of his career, where he's trying really hard to help the city, from like a legal perspective through its lawyering.
Exactly. He's taking advantage of the quiet on the streets right now. It's kind of quiet on the after like the ninja invasion. And also, I would imagine like kind of the reputation of the other heroes in New York. I think their crime would kind of ramp down logically after all these shows. You know? And he's kind of taking advantage of that. Well, you know what? I mean, I defeated the Hand. That was kind of the big war that was supposed to be coming, which of course it started there, but it's about to ramp up in a big way. Mm-hmm. Taking advantage of the quiet on the streets, and he's just kind of found that Matt Murdock is kind of all it needs to be right now. And what I really noticed is that he has this great conversation with Father Lantom, and Lantom basically Lantom tells him that he doesn't have to punish himself. Elektra was not his fault, but I feel that Elektra connects Matt Murdock to his youth. Now, a big vibe I got in this episode I was really impressed by is that Matt Murdock, we kind of put him in the season 1 position a little bit, where we see Matt Murdock having faith in the system, where in this case it's a little more complicated than that, but it's Matt is being reminded all throughout this episode while he's retired. He's just convincing himself, okay, all I need to be is Matt Murdock. All I need to be. He's in denial. He's in denial that he wants. He wants to be Daredevil. He still has that outlet that he needs to fulfill, but he's channeling that into his work in a really cool sequence where he's being very overzealous as the lawyer in court.
Yeah, can I just say I think it's kind of a nice device that we've been having with Father Latham, where basically what his role is within these shows is he kind of like shows up for like a 1-scene thesis statement of Matt's character arc.
He does, and
like,
it's always
all right,
welcome.
Matthew, this is like what your character arc's going to be this season. All right, see you next season.
Well, Latham, now you got me to it. Lantom. Lantom actually, when we get to another segment, I'm gonna point this out. Lantom actually delivers a really excellent piece of foreshadow, which we'll get to. On the rewatch, it's completely blindside of how perfect this was.
Okay, cool.
We'll get there. But here's my little theory today. I'm going to say this. I think throughout this episode you have Matt Murdock essentially being reminded all throughout this episode of why he became Daredevil in the first place, and that of course he started Daredevil in his youth and basically his college days, and of course in his college days that's when he met Elektra. So to me it would seem that Elektra connected to his youth and also to Stick. Of course, his experiences with Stick, just kind of keeping going on with the youth parallel here, which of course is kind of would be where the drive for being Daredevil came from. Again, when he was like in college, he was kind of beating the child abuser, which of course kind of jettisoned the whole him becoming the man in the black mask, the devil of Hell's Kitchen, of course, ultimately Daredevil. And basically, it was a basic way of channeling the devil within him, which again was like the first scene we had after the origin of Daredevil season 1, where he's like there's the devil in the Murdock men. Where in this case, he has a devil within him, which is that urge, that dark side that he feels that Elektra brought that part out of him. That's why he was in the confession. It was like I'm feeling the compulsion to be Daredevil again. I know that's wrong, and Elektra would want you to be happy. It's kind of what Lantom's telling him there. And again, I just love this, and we have this excellent scene. I'm gonna play a piece of it here for you, where we get to see Matt. He's channeling that devil inside of him as the most virulent. This is the lawyer that Saul Goodman would bow down to. Here's how we know how good a lawyer Matt Murdock is, and of course, again, we've said this before, but I would watch the entire legal show just about Matt Murdock. I don't need Daredevil. I mean, that's the thing going into this. Daredevil, of course, is fantastic. But honestly, Charlie Cox as Matt Murdock that's enough for me. And those trailers for Defenders, like we initially see him in the suit, was like, even if we don't get him in the suit, I'm gonna be happy. But if we get him in the suit, that's just icing on the cake. But it was a little something like this: him in court again, just channeling that ferocity he would if he were punching criminals into getting justice in the courtroom. It was a little something like this.
Your office received an urgent delivery from the Safety Commission on June 3rd, 3 months earlier. I'm curious, did that have anything to do with the next degree? I don't know anything about this.
Your Honor, unless Mr. Murdock can prove my clients actually received these hypothetical documents.
It's not about whether he received them, it's about whether he willfully ignored them. Your Honor, I asked that this record of delivery be admitted into evidence. I get a lot of those. What would you say is worse? Ignoring data in the interest of cutting costs, or neglecting to supply the court with records that might prove you purposely put people in danger, including this young man, Aaron James, who might never walk again.
Your Honor, we would like a recess.
None of you. He is too.
So, I mean, yeah, Matt's really throwing himself in.
He's just on fire, man. Like, it feels like he's had, like, 10 espressos.
Exactly, and I think that's a little dangerous, too, that, he's not kind of holding himself back. I mean, he's not being, again, he's kind of, I think he's throwing himself a little too much in his run. I mean, I love that, don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, I think it's kind of examining a bit of, like, it's not all roses in that regard.
Do you think maybe he's painting a little bit of a target for himself doing this, like being so overzealous?
That's what I'm saying. I think there's a risk involved when he's like, it's like always like, why does Clark Kent not be more, more heroic in the Clark Kent identity? Of course, he doesn't want to draw any attention. I'm not saying people are going to figure out that he's Daredevil, but I am saying that people are, he will make enemies fast. Like, people want to like silence the lawyers who are giving him trouble,
Sure.
Still, like the lawyer gets lucky, like the honest lawyer who gets lucky, which is usually kind of what he and Foggy represent. They're Nelson and Murdoch days. These are like good guys who kind of get lucky and they know their stuff. So you buy that they would win.
Oh.
And also, I feel just with the overcompensation, the meld to Karen of it all in here is kind of examined again, just where he's at right now. So again, he's overcompensating in the courtroom, and of course, he kind of runs into Karen. We'll get into a really excellent scene momentarily. Karen. We see that Matt and Karen they're in different places post their Punisher and Elektra arc. So I just thought it was kind of funny the fact Karen went on Punisher arc and he went on Elektra arc. And that
right.
The reason they're in different places. I mean, how did you feel about that? The fact that they weren't together to be season.
I mean, I don't know. To me, it kind of like I sort of wish we would have gotten more of a clear like exactly how much time's passed in between the two.
Yeah, because what we know is, it's been a few months past Christmas. At the very least, we know that much.
Yeah, I'm just saying I wish we would have like had a definitive answer on that. Because like I don't know, like I think it makes sense that they wouldn't be together after the reveal at the end of season 2. I think it makes sense that she wouldn't be able to process it right. But I think the one thing that kind of I just thought it was a little abrupt. The fact that she. To me, it's like the fact that she shows up at the courthouse. Like, keep in mind, this is a nitpick, but the fact that she shows up at the courthouse and then, and only, we only get revealed later that they're kind of distant from each other. I thought that could have been handled a little better.
Well, here's the interesting thing I kind of saw is I love that there's this fragile. Matt is walking the line right now because again he knows. He knows he wants to be in the suit again, but he knows it's kind of bad for him. It knows happened to this, and of course, just what happened to her. And of course, I mean, deep down, like he's thinking, like the great Turk Barrett once said, he wants to be Daredevil. That's what he's thinking, But I like that we see in the life. Basically, we get to see with Karen the life that Matt is trying to have a relationship, see the fragile, friendly connection that he's half in, half out. And I think that's what they're going with the whole, they're not exactly a couple, but they're still a little distant. It's like he wants to have these people in his life that stick to him. Like, no, you can't be in this fight and have people he care about. So he's taking himself out of the fight and he's trying to have people he cares about. But of course, there's that. He's half in, half out, which is making things strain. That's my read on it.
Yeah, I hear you.
All right, and of course, we'll get to the end a little later on. So, okay, all right. So I guess that's kind of where we go with Matt. Of course, by the end, generally, he's kind of awakened and with a big event. I'll say that much.
All right, Dragon. So it's time to take a flashback to elementary school, put our hand on the construction paper, and outline it as we get into the fingerprints of the hand.
Yes.
Okay, so we meet our villain of the season, Alexandra. Dragon, I thought it was a very bold and interesting choice to introduce her. Literally, the first thing we learn about this woman is that she is dying, and it is a bad situation.
Oh yeah, man, Sigourney Weaver. It was a nice, quiet introduction. I think she does an excellent job in this season.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about, there's some
yeah.
controversy over the way that her arc ended up, which of course we'll talk about much
later.
But her
arc does have the arc does have a strong start that we can agree on that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and so you're right, D. We have this kind of this quiet intrigue of the dying woman who runs the hand. So again, like I love when we build her up because first of all, we have some great visual cues. They're like the hands pressed against the glass. They kind of signify, oh god, she's involved with the hand.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course, she knows she's dying. She's very direct, and then we find out how dire it is, where she has like months to she has weeks to months to live.
Yeah, none of her resources can help that.
Exactly, which is moving up the timetable. And again, at this point, just so we won't go into it quite yet, but we know at this point, just whatever the hand's end goal is, the timetable has been moved up, which of course kind of endangers them. And of course, it will put the defenders on their path because they're going to get a little sloppy. And Alexandra, she's making the risk because she wants to see things. She wants to see it come to fruition, and we're going to find out she has a big stake in that.
Mm-hmm. So I think the great way to make this woman, intimidating is to essentially take basically the biggest villain that's kind of been like wove throughout all of the Marvel Netflix shows, Madame Gao, and basically have Madame Gao just be completely subservient to Alexandria.
Yeah, I know it's great. It's such Gao answers to her. That's like all you need. That's again, it's such a great subtle
Feed
yet
the birds,
perfect.
will you?
Feed the birds.
Oh, I knew that was going to come up.
Oh yeah, it's such again. Like she's commanding Gao to feed birds, and again, it's so just all the subtle things are showing you the relationship. But also, it's kind of funny. It kind of reminds me. I think it's intentional. It's directly staged, like the scene that she had Wilson Fisk reading. They're not feeding the birds necessarily. I'm saying all the scenes they have where she just kind of sits beside her, and usually Alexandra would be Madame Gao, and Madame Gao would be Wilson Fisk in that scene that we've seen way early on, where of course very respectful, he's going to answer to the other one. The other one's all cryptic, doing something else, and these would be like tea or a walk or something instead of birds. But it's again, it's like the subtle power moves there, and of course the other kind of fingerprints of the hand we have going on here, of course, Elektra, we learn was the shadowy figure in the beginning. Big surprise.
No.
Again, they really shouldn't have shown the head. I don't know if they gave her the hood's not up. It's like the hair sticking out. I mean, again, people have a guess of who it is. I'm not saying everyone.
The other thing
knows.
we should address with Alexandra is the immortal angle that they're playing on.
That's true, but we don't know that at this point.
No, but we do get a lot of good. I guess we can talk about the build up for it when we get into the Easter eggs. So we'll save that.
I mean, we have one scene that intimates that she's knowledgeable about New York. That's all we kind of know. But yeah, we'll build to that.
All right.
But mainly with Elektra, we know Elektra is she's been sent to kill the Chase. Again, she's killing Styx guys, and she is. Basically, she's the secret assassin weapon of the hand. She's the muscle of the hand. She's the X factor. She's like that. Basically, their answer to Daredevil, essentially, is like basically it's kind of honestly it's their answer to the Defenders. Period. Like all the superpowered kind of beings. That's kind of what Elektra represents to the hand, just the ultimate assassin.
Mm.
Of course, the Black Sky. I mean, just to give it the actual name. Of course, a big plan to trigger an earthquake with the architect John Raymond's C4. Of course. Will factor in. Of course, an architect of all things, like why an architect of all people to get C4? I wonder why. All
right. So let's move on to some Excelsior expectations.
All right. Of course, we have just some excellent acting all throughout this piece.
Yeah, I think this is a really good episode in terms of like bringing all four of the shows together. It's kind of like a mini episode of all four of the shows, which, to be honest with you, Dragon, I've heard is like a complaint about this episode, but I really don't get that as a complaint. I think that's exactly what the first episode of The Defender should be, like establishing the status quo for all our characters.
Yeah, I love that they don't rush the crossover. They let it. They give it some breathing room in the beginning. Again, it's like you're dipping a toe in there before you're taking the dive.
Yeah, I mean, as we get into the crossover of it all, I think it's very smart that we essentially like pair the main four up into two different pairings, and then build up when those two pairings meet up. like it's a really good kind of, you know, gradual progression to the eventual team up.
Oh yeah, a big element I really love the episode. Kind of echoed a little bit, but just to kind of explain it a little bit more. Is that I love how each arc is about not being a hero, but also I love how each of them fail at what they're doing in the episode. I thought that was kind of interesting. The thing about all of them are kind of failures in this first episode, which is kind of a great starting place to see them kind of come together and, of course, kind of try to change that.
Mm-hmm.
Because we had the failed Iron Fist. We have Jessica Jones, not a hero, not really. Again, like she's turning down clients. Luke, of course, you know, he's trying to reach out to a youth, and that's not working. And of course, Matt Murdock, he's just in conflict with himself.
I would say Matt's probably like the most well off because at least he's still doing some good. But
true. Again, they're all failing in some aspects.
Yeah. Let's see. What do you think of the transitions?
I really like the transitions in the first episode. One thing I wasn't super crazy. I don't feel one way about it either or. But you remember we have that subway. Basically, like we're looking through like almost like a PI lens at each scene where we can do that weird camera effect. It doesn't. I don't feel any one way or another about it. But what I do like with the transitions, I like how we have these thematic transitions. I forget. Well, I guess we'll find out as we go forward. I don't know if they keep that up. But I know in this first episode we have that where it's.
I know they don't keep it up.
Right. Well, yeah.
What that actually kind of reminds me of stylistically is something that's cool, but they don't keep up is the narration in Jessica Jones.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, it is kind of like that.
Yeah.
I wonder if they use the same director on that. I guess we'll find out. Anyway, but yeah, I love. Speaking of transitions, something also wanted to echo. We have some great transitions. I guess a few examples would be, of course, we go from Foggy to Matt. You know, we go from the Foggy Nelson scene to meeting Matt Murdock. We go from Jessica to Luke Cage. Of course, those two characters very entwined with each other.
Right, it's all paced out very well. Yeah, in terms of who we're going to.
Yeah, not a hero to the returning hero with Jessica and Luke. And of course, another one is we go we have New York and Iron Fist. Of course, two elements that are definitely going to play into what they transition to. Alexandra Reed, of course, has designs in Iron Fist and, again, ties into New York.
And into the Hand as well, which Iron Fist is the most intimately involved with the Hand.
Certainly. Very intimately involved, yes.
Oh, yes.
And, yes, and another thing I just wanted to talk about, how do you feel about the opening, not the opening. I mean the opening title sequence. You know, we have like.
I thought it was very good.
Yeah, I agree with that. I like kind of the color coding and like we kind of lay them on top of each other. I thought it feels like an appropriate one to say, yeah, we're all meeting each other here. I thought it was a good.
Like, to be honest with you, in a way, it kind of felt like all four of the intros that we've gotten stylistically kind of blended together.
Yeah, I mean, that felt like, that I had a better experience with than, I guess, on the whole. I had more questions with the opening scene, but then that intro happened. I was like, yeah, this is like getting me in that feeling that they probably should have had in that opening scene.
Right.
I love that visually we bring back similar, these familiar series motifs. And I mean, visual and kind of character-wise, because one of my favorites that came back, of course, we had the Daredevil red light.
Right.
All over this, because when we see Matt Murdock, printing out his stuff, I love that we still have all the, we have all the subtle details of Matt's blindness kind of playing at play here. He's rehearsing his stuff for court. He's printing out in Braille.
I love the moment where the waitress is like, "Cream's on the right, honey."
I know, that's what I'm saying. I love that we're still not this deep into it. Tiki, you think the well would run dry at this point, but no, they're still doing it.
Right.
And the red light, we have like red light in the diner where they're eating, and of course, the red light was a big element of Daredevil season 1, especially in one particular scene of Daredevil season 2. That red light all over the place. Of course, is saying that again, he wants to be this other thing, but he's just holding himself back.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, beyond that, we have, of course, Luke becoming Pops, just kind of that continuing arc there. Of course, Malcolm just kind of randomly wandering into Jessica's apartment from Jessica Jones. Kind of make the goal, I want my key back. Of course, Iron Fist in the plane. I love that kind of visual motif where, again, he's having a nightmare on a plane, which, of course, bad stuff happens with Iron Fist on planes.
Oh, yeah.
And on his family plane, too, which, of course, is the very same scenario.
Right.
In that case. Yes, I love how we link up at the end with the Hands plot being put into motion. I love how we link up all 4 stories like simultaneously at the very end. I guess. Yeah, all right, I'm just trying to. Because I don't want to step over
on my end.
So I just want to make sure I wasn't stepping over one of your moments because I had
No, you're all good. You're all good.
Let me see if there's anything major here. Still little details, not that great shots. We have a lot of great shots with hands. Again, with all the hand motifs, by the way.
Yes.
Dr. Strange would be proud. But also with the visual motifs, again, we spoke to a lot of the visual motifs, but there's one other one I want to have. The visual
one of the other ones, one of the other visuals that just works its way in like subtly but very slyly. It's like, hey, Luke's wearing the yellow shirt.
Yeah, it's great. And the one other one with tying into Luke Cage as well. I loved how we have the kind of the vigil to Sean Miller, like the car accident, the destroyed car, with like kind of they made it into a makeshift visual. I mean, I love that kind of symbol of like kind of the tragedy of the Millers in Harlem. I thought it was kind of neat. Okay.
All right, Dragon. Let's get into some Netflix Nirvana. Yeah. All right. So these are our favorite moments of the episode, folks. Dragon, I guess chronologically, why don't you go first?
No, T. I think you go first.
Well, I mean, I have the ending.
Well, don't you also have like the Aaron James thing?
True. Okay, fair enough. All right, folks. So I guess my kind of my runner-up for best moment of the episode is Matt Murdock's conversation with Aaron James, is very frank conversation with him. You know what I mean? Where, and I don't know, Dre, like this kind of speaks to the state that Matt Murdock is in this episode. You know what I mean? Where he still like very much wants to help people, but he's not as bright-eyed and optimistic as he used to be about it. Like he's basically giving this kid this kid who ended up in a wheelchair the harsh truth. Like, look, kid, like this is this is mile 1 in the marathon, and this money that you got is going to help your parents a lot, but it's not going to bring your life back. Like, your life is, the life as you knew it is gone.
I have the whole thing if you need it, by the way.
I mean, that's all I have to say about it. It's, just a good, like I said, it's just a good way to show that Matt, while heroic, is in a much more cynical place than when we last saw him.
I think what's interesting about it too is that again, the Aaron James thing is again Matt being reminded of his youth and being reminded of the various things. Like, again, this is basically Matt in this scene becomes Stick, mentoring a kid in this scene.
That's a good point. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I really love that. It's in Matt's face so much in this episode. Like all the reasons. Like again, like it's like an addiction with him of becoming Daredevil in this episode. He's been fighting it, and of course it's kind of putting a strain. It's like he's in rehab for it almost.
All right, and I thought just stylistically, this was a hell of a way to end out the episode. Was post-earthquake, Matt, of course, and we've seen similar endings to this before on Daredevil, Dragon, but this was probably the most effective way in which we ended an episode like this, where like after the earthquake, Matt is just his senses are kind of like on overload, and he's just hearing like the whole city in panic, and just like the sound design alone, I think just really elevates the scene. Like, it's a great ending. It's a great kind of beat to go out on the first episode. It's kind of a call to action for Matt. You know what I mean? Like, he can't, it's like, it's impossible to ignore at this point. Like, to go on ignoring the call for help, the literal call for help that's going on across the city. It's just like, that's just something he cannot do anymore. So,
and again,
great way, just great way to kind of jump Matt back into action at the end there.
Piggyback off that, I just want to also say that again, it's appropriate that we have so much of a Frank Miller vibe, considering Frank Miller made his bread and butter on Daredevil before it was Batman, and of course it feels kind of Dark Knight Returns-esque in a way. So I think it's kind of a fun little switcheroo. We've kind of noticed a few times with the Daredevil series is that. It's identical to the scene in Dark Knight Returns, where I'm sorry, it's thematically similar to Dark Knight Returns, and Bruce Wayne, of course, the crashes through the window, or basically, he's basically reminded of. He comes out of retirement. It's very much kind of the scene where he comes out of retirement.
Mm-hmm.
And what's cool here, of course, is as you said, Tig, it's like the city is calling to him. Of course, Matt Murdock is like, my city, Hell's Kitchen is my city. In this case, the city is calling him for help, and he cannot refuse that call.
He's like the opposite of Rick Sanchez. He has to go for the call to adventure, the literal call to adventure.
Yep. And then again, it's also again what started. It's the origin. This is where I'm hitting on Dark Knight Returns it all to you. This is the origin of Daredevil, where again he was in as a kid. He would hear all the cries up, all the crime going on in Hell's Kitchen. Right. That's what. And again, I love that we basically had like I guess they had the religious connotation there. It's kind of like he had like a baptism by earthquake, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway. Okay. So I guess mine moments then, real quick. All right, so mine are very Luke Cage centric. I don't notice. I have basically where Luke kind of becomes Pop for the episode here, where he
like visits. I said, it's very after school special in a good way.
Oh yeah. So unfortunately, I don't have the full glory of the scene. It's a really nice scene. He comes to Cole very respectfully. I love that his reputation precedes him. As like he walks in there as his kind of his friends in kind of this bad sect of Harlem. They're kind of saying like, "Who are you?" And then of course he lowers the hood. It's Luke Cage, and they show instant respect, and they lead him up to the room. And I like how smart Luke Cage is in approaching this kid. And then of course, things get a little
kind of has like that Batman quality to him, where all he has to do is say, "I'm Luke Cage," and he just commands instant respect.
Oh yeah, and I love that it does not go to his head. That's the lovable thing about Luke Cage. It does not go to his head. He says, I'm Luke Cage. I know who you are, because everyone knows who Luke Cage is. And basically this bit where he's speaking. My favorite part of this is when he brings up, again, because it's building to a favorite scene we're going to have, one of the favorite scenes we're going to have in the season, where essentially the Luke is kind of mentioning to Cole, think of your mother. She's lost 2 of her children. You need to be there for, and basically advising him, look, don't get any bad stuff here. I mean, don't follow the same path that your brother followed. It's a really powerful scene. It's Luke as a role model in Harlem. It's just it's half the stuff I love about Luke Cage, aside from again just the gentlemanly quality that Luke Cage has. Again, Luke Cage he's always firing all cylinders in terms of just a classy, fantastic character. Here's a taste of it here.
Listen, I can help you. Hypothetically speaking, you need anything. I think you should go. Ask anybody what I'm willing to do. You can trust me. It's too late for all of that. Everything's too late. Son, it's never too late. Man, I ain't your son. I told you I don't know a damn thing.
And again, that's just it hits it on the head of just what's so great about Luke Cage. Where he's not viewing himself as a hero. He's trying to reach out to someone. It's not working. And of course, there's that great line he has towards the opening of that. Where he says, everyone in this neighborhood knows. Ask anyone in this neighborhood, they know what I've done. They know what I'm willing to do. Again, there's that beautiful, let me help you. Again, he's reaching out to him. Of course, the minute he says son, again, trying to emulate Pops, it blows up in his face. But I mean, I love that he tries, man. That's such a great, such a rich character.
Like you said, as you hit on earlier, it's basically like all our heroes are kind of like trying and failing to fit into their roles.
Exactly. And briefly, connect with Tiki's main moment here. I love the ending as well, but I also, the moment for me out of the ending, it's a great tapestry. Again, all of our stories coalescing, of course, like everyone. all of our stories coalescing in a great way. Like they all kicked off. Jessica Jones finds a C4, Iron Fist returns. Which, by the way, the meta commentary on Iron Fist. I meant to point this up in the Excelsior expectations, but I don't know if you noticed this, Tiki. There's basically they're self-aware of the Iron Fist thing. Of course, we know that throughout the season, but I mean, in this episode, we have a self-aware moment where there's a commentary on Iron Fist that the minute he comes back to New York, everything goes to pieces.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know how many people realize that, but it was just kind of funny on the rewatch. That they are really self-aware in that case. Like the minute he shows up, that's it's going to pieces. But for me, I guess my moment at the ones again, I love the hero saving people, and again the other half I was kind of alluding to with Luke Cage. I love when he saves people too. I love when any hero saves people, and of course when Luke Cage saves people, that's just the tops right there. And of course when everything's going haywire. With that great ending where, of course, the only can't really show. I have to describe it, but let's just hear a bit of audio stuff for another great moment that follows.
It's just a city. You'll get used to watching them fall.
That's the big Elektra reveal, so just kind of get that to represent kind of all the chaos going on there with that moment. But the moment for me, again, it's when Luke Cage, he saves the grieving mother. And again, I love Dolores Miller. I can't wait to talk about that scene with her. But when Luke kind of catches the pole before it strikes Dolores, and it's oh my god, it's him just the average Joe in Harlem. He's being the humble hero that he is, and we know him, we love him for saving the. I keep wanting to say widowed, but I know it's not widowed, but kind of the lone parent.
Mm.
It's just it's fantastic. So it's a fist pump moment. Like, yes, that's Luke Cage right there. Yes, that's Netflix Nirvana right there. Okay.
Oh yeah. All right, Dragon. So let's get into our penultimate segment. Let's talk about some inciting incidents. Yes. Let's talk about laying some groundwork here. So yeah, as I already discussed, with the Alexandria stuff, it's interesting, Dragon. I feel like we started in a good place. Like, I like that we're kind of like vaguely alluding to it. We get great lines, the whole like you'll get used to watching cities fall. Like, oh, like, isn't it funny how no one living in the city could imagine it as a forest. I think the shame with Alexandria is that it's always a show don't tell. You know what I mean? It's always like they tell instead of show. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like they I understand the budget and everything, but like I don't know. I feel like with a character of this magnitude, we keep hearing about how ancient she is, but we never really see it.
I think you hit it on the head, though. I think it is a budgetary thing. We can't show. We don't. Again, we would have shown that with Madame Gao as well. But at the same time, I think there's power in the performance there where you can imagine it when they're talking about it. I don't know.
I mean, I guess, but I think it works a little bit better with Madame Gao just because, like, on surface level, like, just based on physical appearance, Madame Gao seems so unassuming.
Right. But again, I think Alexander does get really good dialogue, kind of expressing. Like, she has that speech about basically how New York was bought for $24 back.
Right.
And if they ask me, I think they overpaid. And again, and what Alexander's kind of connecting to is that with that statement, what we're going to definitely kind of explore with her is that going into this season, going into the big crossover, our approximation of what her character would be about is that while everyone is focused, like all of our defenders are very kind of tied to a sect of New York, Hell's Kitchen, the Harlem, and of course some would say up, kind of further uptown with kind of the city district, in Midtown with Iron Fist, also as well as Chinatown. The point is that small, we're deep in the heart of New York in that regard, and with Alexandria, as we're going to see later in the season, of course, skyscrapers, these huge buildings, these tall structures. Yet again, while she's definitely using that, and she represents it, she's very aristocratic. Of course, she has the fancy coat on. She looks very high class, but I love that she's reflecting to a simpler time. She longs for the simpler time, which is why they overpay. Like she doesn't care what's being built in New York. She just wants to get it back to that. In some. Basically, what her plan entails is bringing it back to a simpler time, basically tearing all of that down in a way. So I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's see, of course, with the reference of forward always, kind of takes us back to this.
Definitely. Just a lot of good kind of like laying the groundwork for just familiar territory with all four of our characters.
Of course, speaking of which.
Never backwards, always forward. Forward. Always.
That's that ending Luke Cage still gets me every time I rewatch it. I was when I was getting that, I was like, I was breaking down. It was so beautiful. Anyway, so beyond that, we had Jessica Jones pulling the "You Are a Winner." You know, we had her doing her.
Yep.
Basically, I don't really have a name for it. Basically, doing kind of the ditzy voice. It's kind of the whole "You Are a Winner" voice. Sounds a little something like this. And it's
kind of like the ditzy secretary voice.
Yes, and Kristen Ritter, she's so fantastic.
Hi, I just got a call from a blogger. I was wondering if you could tell me where it was coming from. Is there anything that you could do? You know, I think it's my grandfather, and he's senile, and he might be trying to get a hold of me. Actually, the missing persons report, I have the number right in front of me. I can read it to you if you want. Really? Thank you so much.
And again, Tiki, you're absolutely right. Again, MVP of the episode, we have like all the hallmarks of Jessica Jones, basically everything but the lock breaking, which we did have the lock break. Yeah, all the hallmarks of Jessica Jones are in this episode.
Yeah, for sure.
I love it when she breaks the lock. But aside from that, also we have, of course, Karen is a reporter, which of course is going to track and especially be important in the Punisher show.
Mm-hmm.
Misty, interestingly, she is. She's now on a citywide task force, and essentially this is basically this is the explanation for why she's going to be in Hell's Kitchen, why she can kind of go from, instead of just being landlocked to Harlem, that's why she's going to be getting around a little bit more. Like, okay, citywide task force. Of course, we foreshadow Sean Miller, basically Cole's brother Sean, who died. He was getting involved in some dangerous work that Cole is following, and of course we're going to see that correlates to I'll say the guy's name, White Hat. I won't say what his affiliation is, but White Hat's definitely going to be a player coming up. Okay, let's see. Of course, Jessica's drinking. I want to say she has some of her signature bottles. I don't know if it's Wild Turkey, but it might be Teachers. You know, she has like her usual kind of arrangement. No eel bottle, unfortunately, but she has her arrangement. Let's see. Of course, Danny with the anti-Iron Fist scar. We have, of course, Jessica pulled New York Winter Voice. Fish. Bobby Fish is mentioned, of course, with the Seagate file. We paid that off. The Seagate file. We see the barbershop is unfortunately closed up and still demolished post-fight. Speaking of demolished post-fight, Jessica Jones. I love this. Jessica Jones' apartment is still in the same exact shape that it is at the end of after the Simpson fight and everything. At the end, Jessica Jones season one, there's giant holes in the wall. Like the place was not repaired. Like Malcolm put some spackle on at the very end, like on the wall, but like the big giant gaping holes are still there.
Yeah, I like all the subtle visual touches we get to New Harlem, like the like the ad on the side of the bus and everything.
Of course, the mention that Mariah and Shades they're cooking up saying that's basically them saying, yeah, we can't give away too much of Luke Cage season 2, but we're
right.
Tig, you and I have been in that position. Mainly me. We've been in that position so much more doing the pitches because I've always like skirted around that. But okay, oh yes, we're planning, we're plotting.
Yeah, of course.
I've had to pull that so many times. I sympathize with them, not knowing what the other show's coming up with. Let's see. So of course. Misty walking in post coffee. I mean, she's had some of Luke Cage's coffee.
And Matt's coffee from the courtroom.
No, Misty, Tiki.
No, I know. I'm making a joke about how pepped up Matt was in the courtroom.
All right. Well, actually, it's funny. He was drinking coffee in the scene before. He had all that.
That's true. That's true. Anyways.
I'll face with that. Okay, let's see. Of course, the earthquake and John Raymond. These are pieces of the Hand's big plan. An architect for important reason. Of course, they need C4 for another reason. Which basically, I'll hint at this much. Let's say the C4 correlates to the C4, of course, created the earthquake. What for? We're gonna find out. Now biggie here. Okay, so here's the biggie. Here's the big thing that Lantham dropped. That I really was super wowed by. So let me play it for you and I'll explain it. So here's what Father Lantham says. That there's a big foreshadow for this season.
Jessica.
Oh, sorry. Crap. Right. Here we go. Darn it. Here we go. Okay. Sorry. Here it is. Here it is.
Moving on. Purgatory is a place where the dead Matthew not the living. There's nothing wrong with letting people go. She'll find her peace. I pray you find yours as well.
Now we're gonna have to skirt around this because we don't give anything away. Because again, we're just gonna looking at the
Yeah,
episode
but it's
as
basically like I was hinting at though, Dragon, about kind of like Latham, sorry, Latham,
Lantham.
however the hell you pronounce it,
lantern, like a lantern.
Right. Like he's basically like, he's basically giving like the thesis statement for Matt's character development this season.
Yes, and also again, let's just say there's a big full circle element of what he hopes for Matt, and of course by the end we're going to see again kind of Matt kind of, let's just say, live up to a lot of that. Of course, you're hoping that he lecture find peace, and of course just Matt definitely kind of putting himself through a purgatory in a way. And of course, let's just say there's a lot of clever foreshadow that we'll definitely bring to the fray when we get to the get towards the end. So I'm saying I was really impressed by it, and for those who've seen every episode, of course, they're absolutely gonna recognize kind of the intrigue of that. I recommend everyone go back to that scene. You're gonna find some interesting stuff there. Okay.
All right, Dragon. Now we get to the final segment of the episode where we ask the all-important question: who's for Chinese?
Yep. Who's for Chinese?
All right, aka final thoughts. So yeah, Dragon, it's interesting. Like I said, I feel like we're going to be defending the pace of this season a lot as we go through it, because I think it was a really inspired choice, actually, as I said, to start all the main characters off on their own individual plot lines, pair them off, and then eventually have them come together. I think it works really well. I think it flows really naturally. It's like we're not just instantly rushing into the pair, into the team up. We're naturally building towards it. So I think this first episode is it's really good in terms of, just setting up all the storylines, getting us back into this world. Of course, I think all three of Daredevil, Luke Cage, and Jessica Jones's storylines are really, really on point and great, and just really, really good stuff. All three of them, not a misbeat at all. And even the Iron Fist, like I said, I can't. The Iron Fist stuff doesn't thrill me as much as the other stuff does, but at the same time, I can't really find much to complain about it either. So overall, a really good, promising start. Very much builds up the momentum, and definitely a great hint at things to come. All right.
Yes. For me, I'm in agreement. Yeah, it's got kind of a weak sauce opening, but a nice on the episode as a whole. Really nice build. Thematically, it's stronger on the rewatch, which I was really impressed by, and holds up a little better on the rewatch. Not that it was a fine opener. I'm finding more things to love about on the rewatch. I was kind of enjoyed. I love we get a sense of status quo. We have a great sense of status quo. Kind of a little bit of hints for each individual season where we'd be going. We have the dynamics are back. So they're back in a big way again. Like we slide into them like a well-worn glove at this point after being through all these series, and of course. And then, of course, like we have that glue at the end where they're all coming together, and it's all just kind of it all fits together like a neat little puzzle, and it's very 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 solid opener. I thought.
Yep. All righty. Well then, now we separate until next time, when Netflix's New Yorkers summon us to mull over the Marvel microcosm. That is
the Defenders.